ask you something that might catch you off guard. You've probably heard all the usual advice. Eat more vegetables, take your medications on time, get enough sleep, stay active. Those are important, and I tell my patients the same things every day. But there's something happening quietly in almost every kitchen, every single day, that very few people ever connect to long-term health risks. And most people never think twice about it. I'm talking about reheating food. Now, before you assume this is about scaring you into throwing away your leftovers, stay with me for a moment. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. It's about understanding small daily habits that, over many years, can influence your health in ways most people don't realize. And this becomes especially important as we get older. Because when we talk about pancreatic cancer, we're talking about a condition that often develops silently. It's usually detected late, and it affects older adults far more frequently. So understanding how everyday habits may impact long-term health really does matter. Today, I'm going to walk you through 5 specific foods that, when reheated repeatedly or handled incorrectly, may create compounds or conditions in the body that are not ideal for long-term health. I'll explain the science in simple, practical terms, the same way I explain it to my own patients. And I'll also give you easy, realistic adjustments you can make without completely changing how you eat. Let's start with the first one. And this one surprises a lot of people. Processed and smoked meats that are reheated. Think about a typical morning. Maybe leftover bacon, sausage, or deli meat warmed up quickly for breakfast or a sandwich. Here's what most people don't realize. These foods already contain preservatives like nitrates and nitrites. When exposed to high heat again, especially during reheating, these compounds can change into other substances that have been studied for their potential impact on cellular health. And this is where things get interesting. Over time, repeated exposure to these compounds may place additional stress on the body, especially in older adults whose natural repair systems are not as efficient as they once were. Your pancreas plays a key role in digestion and blood sugar regulation, and it is constantly interacting with what you eat. So my practical advice is simple. Limit processed meats when you can, and if you do eat them, try to consume them fresh rather than reheating them multiple times. Now let's move to number 2, reheated rice. This one sounds harmless. Rice is a staple food in many households. But here's what most people don't realize. Uncooked rice can naturally contain certain bacterial spores. Cooking destroys active bacteria, but those spores can survive. If cooked rice is left sitting at room temperature for too long, those spores can become active again and produce substances that aren't ideal for your digestive system. And when this cycle of cooking, cooling, and reheating happens repeatedly, it can contribute to low-level irritation in the gut. Over time, chronic irritation and inflammation are factors researchers often study when looking at long-term health conditions. There's another layer to this. Reheated rice can also affect how your body processes carbohydrates, which may impact blood sugar levels. And your pancreas is directly involved in managing that. So here's the simple takeaway. If you cook rice, store it in the refrigerator fairly quickly. Try to eat it within a day and avoid reheating it multiple times. Now, number 3, reheated potatoes. Potatoes are comforting, familiar, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying them. But when starchy foods like potatoes are cooked, cooled, and then reheated at high temperatures, certain chemical changes can occur. One of those changes involves compounds that form during high heat cooking processes. Most people don't realize this, but the way food is prepared and reheated can influence what compounds are created during that process. And over time, repeated exposure to high-heat cooking byproducts is something researchers continue to examine in relation to long-term health. There's also the same storage issue we talked about with rice. Improperly stored potatoes can develop unwanted bacterial growth, which can irritate the digestive system. So instead of reheating potatoes multiple times at high heat, consider eating them fresh, or even enjoying leftovers cold or lightly warmed. Now let's talk about number 4. And this one surprises almost everyone. Leafy greens like spinach when reheated. These are foods most people consider extremely healthy, and they are. But here's the surprising part. Vegetables like spinach, beets, and celery naturally contain compounds that are beneficial in their fresh state. However, when these vegetables are cooked and then reheated repeatedly, especially at high temperatures, their chemical structure can change. And under certain conditions, those changes may not be ideal when this becomes a regular habit. Now, this doesn't mean you should avoid vegetables. Far from it. It simply means that how you prepare and reheat them matters. If you cook leafy greens, try to eat them fresh. And if you have leftovers, consider eating them cold or gently reheated, rather than repeatedly exposing them to high heat. Now, number 5, reheated chicken and other poultry. This is one of the most common leftovers people rely on. But here's something most people don't think about. When fats in foods like chicken are exposed to high heat multiple times, they can undergo changes that produce compounds linked to oxidative stress in the body. And over time, repeated exposure to these compounds may contribute to cellular wear and tear. There's also the issue of food safety. Improperly stored or reheated poultry is one of the most common sources of digestive issues related to bacteria. And repeated digestive stress can contribute to inflammation, which is something we always want to minimize. So if you're reheating chicken, use moderate heat, make sure it's heated evenly, and try not to reheat it more than once. Now I want to pause here and speak to you directly, because I understand something very real. For many people, especially older adults, reheating food isn't just a habit. It's practical. It saves time. It saves money. It makes daily life easier, and that matters. This isn't about eliminating leftovers or making life more complicated. It's about small adjustments. Simple changes in how you store food, how often you reheat it, and how you heat it. Things like refrigerating food sooner, reheating only once, using gentler heat, and being more mindful of certain foods. Small changes that, over time, can make a meaningful difference. Because here's the reality. Some health conditions develop quietly. They don't announce themselves early, which is why prevention and daily habits become so important. And one of the most powerful tools you have is not complicated. It's your routine, your kitchen habits, the choices you make every day without thinking. If you're over 60, or if you have concerns about long-term health, it's worth having a conversation with your doctor about your diet and habits. Ask questions. Be curious, because informed patients make better decisions. And better decisions, repeated over time, lead to better outcomes. Before we finish, I want to leave you with a simple way to remember what we talked about today. Processed meats, rice, potatoes, leafy greens, and poultry. Not foods to fear, not foods to eliminate, but foods to handle with a little more awareness when it comes to reheating. Your body has supported you for decades, quietly, consistently, every single day. Taking care of it doesn't require perfection. Just a little more attention to the small things that add up over time.